This was the real-life Homer Simpson, and it's quite disturbing. In 1969, before The Simpsons premiered, something strange happened in a small town in Oregon. A power plant worker named Hugh Jass disappeared without a trace. His co-workers described him as a heavy-set, balding man who was obsessed with donuts and worked in nuclear safety. But here's where it gets disturbing. Hugh's last day at work, he reported a serious safety violation. Something about glowing green waste being dumped illegally. The next day, his desk was cleaned out and his house was empty. When investigators looked into his employment records, they found nothing. It's like Hugh never existed. But in 1887, a retired security guard from the power plant finally revealed the truth. The plant owner, named Warren Peace, had been dumping radioactive waste into the local water supply for years. Hugh discovered the truth and threatened to expose everything. The night Hugh disappeared, security cameras caught him being led to Warren's office, but he never came out. 3 years later, his wife, named Amanda Hugg, wrote in an article how sweet Hugh was, and she later sued the nuclear company for approximately $69 million, but the court only granted her $6.02.
This was the real-life Aladdin and Genie, and it was truly horrifying. In 1945, in Shreveport, Louisiana, a rich man named Alaric Danver gained a strange reputation. He could grant people's deepest wishes. Most people who came to him asked for money, and Alaric always delivered. They'd find their bank accounts full, but soon, something awful would happen. Slowly, their loved ones and family members began to disappear one by one. One day, a boy named Jimmy Neutron, who didn't care about money, asked Alaric to make him fly. Alaric, intrigued by the boy's wish, agreed. He created a pair of mechanical wings and strapped them to Jimmy's back. But as he jumped, the wings failed, and Jimmy plummeted to the ground. Alaric stood by, watching with a grin. This incident caused a public uproar, and the police raided his mansion. But what they found in his big basement was pure horror. It turns out he kidnapped the family members and made them work in gold mines, which would allow him to grant wishes for people. But when the police tried to arrest him, he said, "Genie weenie, take my beanie. I'm gone like Houdini," and disappeared forever.
This American doctor was so evil, it will make you sick. In 1952, Orphan City, Florida, there was a doctor named Al Bieback who was known as a brilliant surgeon, but he had a dark obsession. He believed he could unlock the secret to immortality. He found a patient, a young man with no family, who had weeks left to live. The experiment began. Dr. Bieback injected a compound into the man's heart and waited. Days passed, and the patient didn't die. He seemed to stabilize. The doctor was happy. Until the patient began to speak, "You've trapped me. I'm still dying, but I can't die." The patient wasn't immortal. He was stuck in a limbo between life and death, unable to heal, unable to die. His body remained alive, but his mind was in agony. As the patient screamed in endless torment, Al realized his dream of immortality had become a nightmare. Some days later, one of the nurses named Anita Mann realized what Al was doing and reported to the police. Once they arrived, the doctor took his own life, and the last thing he said was, "I shall go, but I will be reborn much stronger." But that didn't really happen. He was laid to rest the same day.
This lady married her dead boyfriend. In 1978, in a small town in Ohio, there was a woman named Linda Smith who was head over heels in love with her boyfriend. They had talked about marriage endlessly, but just weeks before their wedding, her boyfriend tragically died in a car accident. Linda was devastated. Her boyfriend named Lemmy Leaf was the best boyfriend ever to her. One evening, Linda couldn't take it anymore and she dug up her boyfriend's grave with the help of her two brothers. She announced she was still going to marry him. The townspeople were baffled, and some thought grief had driven her mad. Linda planned an eerie wedding party and invited everyone, wearing a white dress beside Max's corpse in a suit. Then came the twist. Linda didn't plan on returning her boyfriend to his grave. Instead, she decided that they will live together and have a family. All her friends and family saw her as a mad woman, but she didn't care. She kept her boyfriend inside a refrigerator and would occasionally bring him out for a walk. About 11 months later, she got pregnant, but you already know how she got that child. What this man did to his wives was truly horrifying. In 1975, a man named Mark S. Mann had a shop where he made lifelike dolls and sold them for a living. Wealthy women would flock to his shop, enchanted by his charm. They'd fall in love, and they would marry, but then they'd disappear. His workshop in the basement held 8 glass cases with 8 beautiful dolls in them. One day, he managed to persuade a woman named Chloe Noalot to be his newest wife. 3 days after their marriage, Chloe noticed something the others didn't. The dolls weren't just wearing wedding dresses, they were wearing his missing wives' actual wedding dresses. In his diary, she found his darkest secret. He wasn't just making dolls that looked like his wives. He was turning his wives into dolls. The process took exactly 13 days. The screams lasted for 12. Chloe managed to call and inform the police about her twisted husband, but when police raided his workshop, they found his final project unfinished. A doll with Chloe's face, only half transformed. But Chloe had left him a gift too: handcuffs. Now, Mark rots in prison, surrounded by blank-faced mannequins, and his dolls are in police storage. The last thing he had to say was, "I love beautiful women, but I love them more when they are quiet."